Alright, here we are back again with another Strange and Dark Cases compilation. You know how it works. This is where I take a bunch of crimes that aren't long enough to be their own video, but are definitely worth talking about and combine them all into one big video. So let's get started. Here we have friends test helmets by shooting each other in the head. A 37-year-old man named Sean O'Donnell and his friend, 34-year-old Aaron Prout, were hanging out at Sean's house one day in August of 2025. Sean was American, while Aaron was a citizen of the UK who was living in the country, in Harris County in Spring, Texas. Two things that they shared an interest in were firearms and body armor. At some point, the two men got their hands on a Kevlar helmet, and hearing that it was completely bulletproof, they decided that there would be no better way to test it than by picking up a gun and trying it themselves. The two decided to get alcohol into the mix, getting pretty drunk and deciding to do some product testing. They didn't put the helmet on a fence post or prop it up against a tree, nothing like that. Instead, they decided to take turns wearing it while shooting each other in the head with a rifle inside Sean's house. It went about as well as you might expect, with Aaron suffering a gunshot wound to the head. The police were called shortly after and Aaron was rushed to the hospital. He died from his injuries shortly after. Initially, it appeared that the wound had been self-inflicted, and Sean was happy to let the police think that. When things didn't really add up upon closer inspection, Sean relented and filled the police in on what had happened. It wasn't made clear why exactly the helmet didn't prevent Aaron from being shot. However, helmets like those aren't guaranteed to provide 100% protection. They're meant to provide as much protection as possible just in case you were to be shot. Deliberate, repeated shots from close range are in a different ballpark. Sean was arrested for killing his friend. He was taken into custody and charged with 1 count of murder. The Harris County Sheriff said, "Hard to believe two so-called friends would take turns shooting at each other while wearing a Kevlar helmet inside a house in a residential neighborhood while using a rifle." It's unknown what kind of sentencing Sean might receive given the circumstances. The charges very well may be lower due to exactly how the crime played out. We'll just have to wait and see where this one goes. Don't shoot your friends to test out armor. That's dumb. And now we have girlfriend lures teenage boy to his death. A 16-year-old teenage boy named Trey Dean Wright in rural South Carolina had recently started dating a girl, a cheerleader from school and daughter of a local police officer. Her name was Gianna Helene Kistenmacher. According to Trey's family, he had said that this relationship seemed like a dream come true for him. Well, this relationship wouldn't continue to be so lovely. Gianna turned on Trey pretty quickly, coming to argue with him and accuse him of cheating fairly often. Oddly, one night while she was arguing with him and accusing him of cheating over the phone, she herself was hanging out with a 19-year-old man named Devin Raper on the beach. While Gianna was on FaceTime with Trey, Devin decided to do some white knighting. He took the phone and threatened Trey on camera with a gun. Shortly after, Gianna asked Trey to meet with her to talk in a remote country area in Florence County. He agreed. Little did he know, she was bringing Devin along with her, the man who had just threatened him with a gun, telling him he would shoot him. Not only that, but about 10 other teens were all set to show up, there to witness Trey get taken down. Once Trey got there, he was surprised to see 19-year-old Devin, still talking tough and trying to impress the 16-year-old girl. Devin thought that Trey would immediately back down and cower in fear, but that didn't happen. Trey was fine to argue with him. Humiliated, unable to stand that another boy was standing up to him, Devin pulled out his gun and shot him several times as the other teens watched and recorded the whole thing. All of them left Trey there to bleed out in the street, including his own girlfriend. Trey's body was later found and he was taken to the hospital. There, Gianna showed up, playing the role of the distressed, concerned girlfriend to his family. Trey passed away from his injuries not long after. The police were quick to start interviewing suspects. It wasn't long before they put the pieces of the puzzle together. Devin Raper was arrested the next day and charged with homicide and possession of a weapon. Gianna was also arrested, being charged with accessory before the fact of a felony, although she was released to her family, including her police officer father, shortly after. She has since said that she only thought the two boys would get into an argument, maybe a fist fight. This was heavily doubted by Trey's family and the police alike, given that she had just seen Devin threaten him with a gun moments before being shot. As the story came out, the word love triangle was thrown around a lot, but Trey's mom didn't really see it that way. She said, "My son wasn't about dumb stuff like a love triangle. He really liked her, but he might have been clueless to whatever else was going on." In the following weeks, 8 more teenagers came to be arrested for their role in the attack, mainly things relating to organizing the confrontation and failing to report it. Some of them include Corinne Belviso, Hunter Kindle, and Sidney Kearns. Even more of them were minors, and their names have not come out. This had them shook, as in South Carolina there is a statute called Hand of One is the Hand of All that could have all of the accomplices charged equally regardless of who actually fired the shot. Belviso and Kearns each posted $20,000 bonds and have been released for the time being. Shortly after, the others were released similarly. Just recently, another teenage suspect was arrested as well. From now, we'll just have to see where Devin and Gianna's trials go from here. And this is a similar one. Girl sells boyfriend into slavery. Here we have yet another case of a different evil girlfriend doing something horrible to her boyfriend, although this one plays out much more differently. In China, a 19-year-old guy only called Huang in the media had started dating a 17-year-old girl called Zhou. At first, it seemed like a regular teenage romance. They had met at a youth center and apparently fallen for each other pretty hard. However, that may have been only a front on the girl's part. Huang's sister described the girl, calling her flashy, noting that she wore revealing clothes and obsessed over designer items. She repeatedly claimed that her parents were wealthy investment managers and that they conducted a lot of business in Myanmar. She started trying to convince Huang to work in what she called the family business in Myanmar, promising him that he would be given a very cushy, high-paying job. Huang, blinded by this girl, believed every word she said. Zhou asked Huang to go on a trip with her to Thailand in February of 2025, to which he happily agreed. However, his family grew worried when they saw online that, upon entering Thailand, she brought him very close to the Myanmar border. After getting there, Zhou said that she would need to step away for a little while to go pick up a friend. This wasn't the case at all. Behind the scenes, Zhou had been making arrangements to sell her young boyfriend into slavery in Myanmar. Shortly after she left, a group of armed men swarmed Huang, taking his phone and passport. In total, Zhou was only paid about $13,900 for her boyfriend's life. Zhou took the money and decided to blow all of it at once. She used the money over only 10 days in Thailand, going on a luxury vacation and living it up. Upon returning to China, she was promptly arrested upon leaving the airport. Still, Huang's troubles weren't about to end anytime soon. For months, Huang would remain as a prisoner in Myanmar. The guards beat him with metal bars, shaved his head, and pierced his ears to give him some sort of tag. He was forced to work in a call center of sorts, scamming his own countrymen out of money for these people. He was forced to work up to 20 hours a day, only sleeping during the remainder. If he didn't meet daily scam quotas, he would be punished even more harshly than usual. He was barely fed, losing about 10 kilograms or 22 pounds very quickly. From all of the repeated strikes to his head, he suffered permanent hearing loss. After a while, Huang's health had left him in a state where he could no longer work effectively. Once the human traffickers deemed that he was no longer of any use to them, they decided to get some money out of him a different way. They demanded a ransom from his family to the equivalent of roughly $49,000. His family was able to scrape the money together and, to everyone's surprise, he was actually released in June of 2025. Huang isn't better now by any means. While he can finally relax, his life is anything but pleasant. He still suffers the permanent damage to his body and he is completely traumatized, living in constant fear of another kidnapping. Zhou is still in police custody, being detained on charges of both fraud and human trafficking. Her trial has since been delayed numerous times. Huang's sister has said, "She's only 17 years old. Who would imagine she could do something so evil? It's unbelievable that she was capable of such atrocities. The whole family hopes that the court will severely punish her." And here we have, teenager kills a boy over a PlayStation. Out in Florida, we have the story of a, well, not Florida man, but more like a Florida boy to be more accurate. This is where a 16-year-old boy stabbed another boy for something truly ridiculous. In Oakland Park, Florida, Reuben Whitworth, a 16-year-old, was living in a group home together with another boy around his age, 14-year-old Jordan Doty. This was the One Hope United foster home, and the two boys had had problems getting along in the past. The trouble mainly seems to have come from Reuben. By all accounts, Jordan was playing peacemaker and simply trying to get along with him. Jordan had been known for trying to fit in but being bullied by the other boys in the home instead. Jordan's mother, although not having custody of him, noticed the problems and contacted ChildNet, the agency that was responsible for her son's care, to tell them what was happening. Despite the repeated efforts, nothing was done about it. Indeed, one of the neighbors of the group home started to notice much of the same. He had a conversation with Jordan previously, asking him how his time at the home was going. To this, Jordan responded, "It's scary." One day, Jordan had asked Ruben if he wanted some of his mozzarella sticks. Ruben didn't respond like any normal person would have. Instead, he told Jordan, "No, shut the fuck up or I'm going to stab you and kill you." Despite this clear death threat, there weren't any reports of the adults involved taking his statement seriously. Only 2 weeks later, those threats would be proven to have not only been mere threats. Jordan's mom continued to try and get some help for him within the home, saying, "He was terrorized. The kid kept threatening him. I expressed to multiple people who were here within the home with him." One day, the two got into a small argument over who got to play the PlayStation and who would be doing certain chores. Ruben reacted in a very big way and, just as he said he would do, put a knife into his waistband. He then made his way into Jordan's room, pulled out the knife, and stabbed him over and over again. One of the adult supervisors noticed all of this before seeing Jordan get stabbed right in front of her eyes. She called the authorities and the paramedics right away. On the 911 call, she said that she didn't know where the knife had gone, telling them, "I don't see the knife right now. I had to break it up and I had to get involved with this situation." Jordan was rushed to a nearby hospital where he came to pass away. It was unknown where Ruben had even gotten the knife. Ruben was arrested, coming to be held at the Broward County Main Jail in Fort Lauderdale without bond. The county court described his behavior as dangerous, depraved, and without premeditation. Ruben has been charged with second-degree murder as well as a weapons-related charge. And now we have a pretty dark one. Man convinces girl to choke herself on video. Cameron Zeal Johnson, a 27-year-old man in a suburb of Chicago in the United States, has been known to have been a degenerate. He had a hobby of viewing a lot of, let's just say, child material online and had a habit of trying to chat with underage girls over various messaging apps. One of Cameron's kinks was asphyxiation, and that's what led him to chat with a 13-year-old girl in the UK. He and the girl had been engaged in conversations of that nature over WhatsApp for several days between May 17th and May 22nd of 2025. Cameron used his real phone number for his WhatsApp account, not even trying to hide who he was. He even sent videos and photos of himself to the girl as well. After only a short while of talking, the man deemed to see, quote, "videos of you choking yourself. When I say choke, I mean I want to see your face changing colors." In another conversation, he gave her specific orders, telling her a certain method that he wanted to see her use. In that video, he ordered her to talk about her age while she was choking. Then, one day, the girl waited for her mom to leave the house. While she waited for her to leave, she was on the phone with Cameron. As soon as she left, she began to film herself on video call, setting up her own demise in exactly the way that Cameron had ordered her to. After she went unconscious, it appears that Cameron hung up the phone. He did attempt to call her 3 times in the minutes after. Her mom came back home only minutes later, but by then it was already too late. She found her daughter in that condition, having used an Apple charging cord. The girl was rushed to the hospital, but she passed away from her injuries a few days later. It wasn't hard for the federal authorities in England to link everything back to Cameron. After all, there were records of their conversations and call logs where he used his own phone number. They contacted the Department of Homeland Security in the US, which soon contacted the local authorities in the area. After a detailed criminal complaint was filed against Cameron in June, he was arrested shortly after. When the police caught him, they found that he had a whole bunch of child material on his devices as well as records of other attempts to get kids to make videos for him. He was hit with charges of transmitting and receiving the child material as well as charges of incitement of a minor to make such material. He's being held in jail without bond. And here we have 2 stabbed over 4-year sandwich topping argument. In this case, a man let his pent-up rage get the best of him, and this rage was due to something that most people would find pretty insignificant, that being sandwich toppings. In 2021, he had gone to a restaurant in Paterson, New Jersey called the Baladna Bakery. This was a shop that had been owned by 2 brothers, Abed and Mohammed Assad, who had ran the place for more than 10 years. Back then, this guy had gotten a piece of eggplant on his sandwich. In his words, he did not like eggplant. He came to hold on to the grudge for the next several years. On July 31st, 2025, he decided to give the bakery one more chance. Once inside, he ordered a few items. When his order was being brought out, one of those items, a hot dog, was taking longer than the others. This man flew into a rage, screaming about the missing hot dog and demanding compensation. The female employee working there grew scared of the man, bringing out his hot dog and offering him $3 in compensation to get out. He responded, No, because I got a sandwich last time and they gave me some eggplant and I don't like eggplant. He then pulled out a box cutter. When the owners, Assad and Mohammed, came out to try and defuse the situation, this irate customer pulled up the box cutter and began to swing it around. Both of them realized that they had recognized this man as the crazy eggplant guy. He ended up slashing and stabbing the two owners with the box cutter before fleeing the scene. Mohammed had been stabbed in the chest while Assad was stabbed in the hand and arm. The two were taken to the hospital where they were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The police were able to pull some surveillance camera footage from a nearby business that showed the suspect running away on foot. As of the writing of this video, they're still trying to find him. And here we have a bear framed for murder. In a fairly remote area of Akita, Japan, a 93-year-old man named Fujiyoshi Shindo was found collapsed to the ground and bleeding. His elderly wife was the one to find him, calling the police out to their home. While he had been found in his bedroom, both the wife and the police believed it to have been a bear attack, assuming that he had been able to flee inside. This was because the couple's son, Fujiyuki, had told them so. While that might seem a bit outlandish, by this time 219 people had been attacked by bears in the country and some of them had been fatal in the last year alone. Just before this case, another man had died after being attacked by a bear while delivering newspapers. The police had even relaxed some of their gun and hunting-related laws to make it easier for more people to shoot the bears. For the time being, the police issued a local bear alert for northern Japan. Fujiyoshi was taken to the hospital, but he was pronounced dead due to the blood loss. The bear narrative would come to change when hospital staff noticed that Fujiyoshi's wounds weren't really consistent with a bear attack. They looked too clean, more like wounds from a knife. After that, the bear alert was lifted and the police started looking at the investigation in a very different way. They reclassified the case as a homicide and they only had one suspect in mind, Fujiyoshi's son. After all, he had been the one to tell them that it was a bear that had attacked him, and this was now proven to have been a lie. The cops arrested him shortly after. They have now accused the 51-year-old man of using a knife to slash his father across the face and back. So far, they haven't been able to find the exact knife that was used in the murder, and the crime is still under investigation. And boy oh boy, we have crazy man sprays police with blood. In a case unlike many others, we have a story that took place in Florida, although this time they were terrorized by a foreign invader, that being New York Man. This was a guy named Jeffrey Kimmel, a 38-year-old man who had had a pretty long rap sheet. He had been accused of burglary, assault or battery, resisting arrest with violence, breach of peace, criminal mischief with damages over $10,000, drunk driving, possession of stolen property, and a whole 8 counts of battery on an officer. Somehow, he was still walking free after all of that. From a village in upstate New York called Wappingers Falls, Jeff made his way out to Palm Coast, Florida, about 60 miles from Jacksonville. He decided to grab himself some liquor and made his way over to a store called Sharp's Discount Liquors. Jeff had already entered into the store once and bought some alcohol, getting pretty plastered. He decided that he needed some more, this time bringing a large knife with him. He quickly got into an argument with an employee of the store who refused to sell him any more alcohol, being that he appeared to be very drunk already and had a knife on his person. Originally, the police were called when someone reported a verbal disturbance. However, that would only be the start of the problem. Jeff, who had a large knife visible in his waistband, hopped onto the counter and started spitting and kicking items all over the place. After that, the employee went into the back room and locked the door. Jeff then hopped back down and started throwing bottles of alcohol all over the place while knocking over some shelves of merchandise and throwing a giant fit. In the end, he broke his previous record of $10,000 in damages by causing over $20,000 of damages at this store. He had also cut himself all over with the broken glass in such a frenzy that he didn't even seem to notice it until he was done. Soon enough, the police were on scene to arrest him. Immediately after being taken out of the store, despite bleeding all over, Jeff started arguing with the police. At first, appearing relatively calm, he began to speak to them. One officer asked why he was up on the counter. Jeff responded, "That's your job to figure out." The officer responded, "Alright bro, as long as you're cool with us, we'll be cool with you too, bro." However, then Jeff began to struggle. He told them, quote, boogie D, boogie D, beat my ass, pepper spray me, tase me. Woo, wee-haw, fuck you, sir." He then started screaming, kicking them, and spitting all over them. He said, "I'm gonna bite your hands and spit on you." He then started spitting. It was then that he was thrown down to the pavement, where he continued to spray his bloody drool all over anything that he could. Given that he was spitting blood all over the place, the police were left with nothing to do but cover him in a spit hood and throw him into the back of the cruiser. Jeff was taken to jail. He's now being held in the Perry Hall Inmate Detention Facility on a $236,000 bond. The police took the opportunity to take a shot at the crime rates in New York, saying, "This guy must have really wanted another drink, but he found out he's not in New York, and we won't tolerate behavior like this in Florida." And, here we've got drunk teacher makes students do the Macarena. Alright, here we have a story from Wales, oddly enough. This might be the first time we've ever talked about a case from Wales on this channel, and it is a pretty wild introduction to the country. Alice Ashton, a teacher from Welshpool in Wales, got into a bit of trouble recently. While working at the nightmare of a pronunciation of a school, Ysgol Bro Caerenion School, she decided to take a water bottle full of clear alcohol into her class of 16-year-olds. One student noted that she was taking a good swig from the bottle, noting that the smell of alcohol was apparent to him even from a short distance away. It was something very unusual for their teacher, who students said was normally a very boring person. As Alice continued to chug her way to the bottom of the bottle, she began to throw swear words towards her students while jumping up from her desk. She then turned to her laptop and began blasting music. Still somewhat attempting to teach the lesson, she grew angry with her confused students. She called them all little shits and walked around the room flipping them a bird only inches from their faces. Shortly into the lesson, Alice stopped teaching abruptly and changed the music on her laptop. This was the Macarena song. She ordered all the students to stand up immediately and do the Macarena. While confused, it seems that some of them did comply. One student said, "She asked the class to make the Macarena. She played music and we were not doing work." While two other students said, "She was very, very close to us. There was a slight alcoholic smell. She was very, very lively and quite animated and speaking with her hands. She got some students dancing to the laptop and speakers, and it spiraled out of control." While all of this sounds hard to believe, school officials were able to corroborate the story completely with some security camera footage inside the classroom. During an interview with school staff, Alice denied most of the allegations, but there wasn't really anything she could do against all of the video evidence and the students' testimonies. The police even got involved as well, saying, "It is totally untenable to suggest the music is being played as background music. The evidence is very clear that Miss Ashton did not remain at the front of the class. She invited pupils to dance." She was fired shortly after. While she was listed as being removed from the teacher register permanently, she was actually allowed to reapply from the beginning in 2 years. However, she later sent an email to the school board only to say that she had moved to England and doesn't plan on teaching again. While the story is pretty insane, if you are going to crash out at a school, this is probably the least destructive way to go about it. Rather than shooting up the place, just yell at people and do the Macarena until you get kicked out. And here is a doozy. Flight cancelled over biohazard diarrhea. In July of 2024, a United Airlines flight had been cancelled in the United States. While this is absolutely no shocker in and of itself, the reasoning provided would prove to be truly strange. When the plane landed in Indianapolis, a biohazard crew was seen entering into it. Did someone have some sort of chemical weapon? Was someone carrying an exotic virus from across the world? No, not quite. The reason behind the cancellation was a woman named Megan Reinerston, a writer, actress, and absolute champ who has been very vocal in telling her story. About a year later, she decided to let the public in on what had really happened. Megan, you see, had eaten some undercooked hamburger meat while on a trip in Portugal. She took a flight back home and, when she landed in Newark to change planes, she felt a little sting in her stomach. She felt like she might end up sick later, but it wasn't bothering her too much in the moment. She only had one more connecting flight to make it to her destination, a flight that would only last around 2 hours. She decided to stick it out and hop on board. After all, there was a movie premiere in Indianapolis where she was scheduled to participate. Megan came to post a couple of videos to TikTok in which she detailed her journey, videos that have come to soar in views and engagement ever since. She described her feeling while boarding the plane, saying, "Something is brewing, something is happening that I am not prepared to deal with." She sat down in her seat on the plane with the hope that her stomach pain would level off, at least for a couple of hours. Once she got to Indianapolis, she thought she would be free to blast away with complete freedom. However, within 30 minutes of the flight, she was drenched in sweat and crying from the pain. She didn't want to end up like a certain flight we have detailed in the past on this channel, in which a Delta flight had to be landed and evacuated after a woman dribbled her guts all down the aisle of the plane. So she ran to the bathroom. She said in her videos, "For the next 20 minutes, I had more diarrhea than any human should ever have in their life." As she came to Krakatoa, the tiny airport bathroom, she realized things were worse than she thought. She was about to throw up, too. She turned around and put her face above the toilet only to be met with the toxic fumes of her own creation. So she screamed for the flight crew to bring her some sort of barf bag. In a panic, they did, and she spent the rest of the entire flight held up in the bathroom. They even gave her special permission to remain in the bathroom while landing and deboarding, something that is normally never allowed. As she continued to give her best impression of a power washer, the flight attendants shouted from the door that she should brace for impact. They told her to take her time as the next flight on that plane had been cancelled. Ultimately, she was brought out of the flight in a wheelchair, hearing that hazmat was on the way. Wheeled up to baggage claim, she was met with the stares of other passengers who were well aware of the fact that she was the biohazard. And now, she tells her story. She has apologized to anyone who may have been impacted by the cancellation.
My butthole's raw as fucking hell right now. I'd be pooping. Hell yeah, diarrhea.
And here we have a bonus. Man Moon City Council. It has been a while since we've had a really short bonus story, so here you go. Out in Frederick, Maryland, a man named Adam Harper, known for being a local troll and attention-starved man-baby, made the headlines when he decided to showcase his log launcher to a city council meeting. He addressed the council, criticizing them for various actions. He then stated, "This is my opinion of you communist bastards. God bless the USA," as he bent over and pulled down his pants.
This is my opinion of you communist bastards. God bless the USA.
And vote for Derek Connery in this election cycle.
It doesn't seem that he's going to face any legal repercussions in the way that they had to face his stink stash. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want, I have a merch store open now. There you can get yourself some cool Dire Trip t-shirts and some other stuff. If you want, go ahead and follow me on social media. If anything were to ever happen to the channel, that would probably be the only way you'd ever hear about it, and it's the easiest way to contact me. I also really appreciate when people subscribe to my Patreon. There you can get videos early, ad-free, and uncensored. Channel memberships are up too, and you can get most of the same benefits there as well. Once again, this has been your host Kyle. Thank you, and good night.